Happy Friday, happy Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the day that the Lord has made. We are rejoicing and we are glad in it. Happy Friday. If you're coming on, joining us live, please do me a quick favor. I want you to hit the like button, hit the share button, tag Lolly Dolly everybody, and let them know that your boy, Ramon Preston, my squad, we are all live right here in the beautiful Buckhead community of Atlanta. And you, my friend, are watching the Ramon Preston Show. Today is Friday, July the 19th. We are live. It is 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time. And today we're going to be talking about part 2 on holding companies and net worth. So if you are an entrepreneur, if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, everything that we share on this show, Monday through Friday, at least when we're able to come live, everything that we share is directly connected to and associated with what you should do as an entrepreneur to properly start and properly structure your business, or maybe your ministry, or maybe your income streams. I don't know, all of the above perhaps. I'm a minister, I'm a preacher, I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner. We call that preacherpreneur, and I do both. So some of you may be in both worlds. You may be on both ends of the spectrum, but wherever you are, in terms of entrepreneurship, whether you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or whether you're already entertaining the idea of entrepreneurship, or you're probably practicing entrepreneurship, wherever you are, what we share with you on this show could definitely help you to make sure that you're properly starting your entity or entities, and to make sure that you're properly structuring them correctly regarding your processes, your systems, your products, your services, and everything else in between. So again, welcome to the Ramon Preston Show. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ramon Preston. I am a business consultant, a coach, educator, a real estate investor, a preacher, an apostle. I play a lot of roles. I wear a lot of hats. But guess what? I love showing up here, giving my community information that I know could help you get to the next level personally, professionally, and financially. And for those of you that are in ministry, ministerially. So again, today we're talking about part two on holding companies and net worth. I'm going to assume you did not watch my show yesterday. I'm going to assume that you don't know anything about what I shared regarding holding companies and net worth. Now, the reason why I like to have a conversation with both of these connected is because most people, entrepreneurs or not, most people would love to increase their net worth. Most people want to have a higher net worth. And if you don't understand what process you need to go through in order to increase your net worth or have more of a net worth, then it may take you longer than it should take to have a higher increased net worth. What I have found as a business owner who understands certain business concepts like the holding company concept, what I have found is that when you do properly start and structure a holding company, and when you do implement certain business practices through that holding company, you can easily increase your net worth, not personally outside of your company, but professionally through your company. Now, if I'm losing you, I want to bring it in so it can make sense to you. First and foremost, when I say net worth, what am I talking about? I'm talking about your assets minus your liabilities. So your net worth is the sum total of assets minus or less liabilities. All right? So you can easily do the math on that. Whatever assets you have, whatever the dollar amount is of those assets, You deduct the liabilities from those assets, and you're going to be left with what we consider net worth. Of course, if you talk to someone who does just that for a living, they're going to have a different calculation. If you talk to a CPA or a tax strategist or an accountant, they're going to have a different calculation because they're the professionals. I'm just an entrepreneur giving you the game based on what an entrepreneur needs to think about and consider when they want to use their holding company to increase their net worth. So again, assets minus liabilities will equal net worth. So if we're going to increase our net worth, particularly using holding companies, business entities, here is what we need to understand. This is you. This is your holding company. All right? Inside of this box is a representation of circles, which could be divisions. Those are operational divisions inside of your holding company or within your business enterprise. These boxes would be considered subsidiaries. These are separate legal entities, other LLCs that are owned by your main LLC, which is your holding company. These lines that you see at the bottom, these are just assets that are representing other intellectual properties that you have, whether it's trademarks, copyrights, publishing rights, royalties, stocks, bonds, anything that could be considered an asset. So when you are looking to use a holding company to increase your net worth, it begins by you having a holding company first and foremost. And when you have a holding company, you need to understand what goes under that holding company or inside of the holding company's enterprise. And what typically goes under or inside of that holding company enterprise would be divisions. Those are operational activities you have, subsidiaries, and any asset that is considered to be an asset, something that flows money to you, something that brings value to you. All right. Now, how do you, from a practical perspective, use the holding company to increase your net worth? Well, you do it through a couple of strategies. The first strategy would be through asset accumulation. The next strategy would be through asset acquisitions. Now, I differentiate asset accumulation from asset acquisitions because the accumulation of assets, to me, is more internal. The acquisition of assets is more external, if that makes sense. So when I look at asset accumulation, I'm looking internally. I'm looking at what do I, as an individual, possess? What do I as an individual control? So I may possess or control vehicles, real estate, stocks, bonds, retirement accounts, insurance policies that have cash value. I may control and hold or possess bank accounts, savings accounts, money market accounts, cryptocurrency accounts. I may have paper assets like intellectual property, copyrights, publishing. There are a lot of things. I may have certain skill sets and abilities that I personally hold and possess. So does that make sense? So when I think about asset accumulation, I'm thinking internal. I'm thinking, what do I personally have? What do I personally hold that I can take and reposition it inside of my holding company enterprise? All right? So these are personal assets that I can reposition inside of my holding company, but they're being accumulated because I have them. I'm just accumulating them. I'm just bringing them together to make them make sense under or inside of my holding company enterprise. When I think of asset acquisitions, I'm thinking more external because an acquisition is a purchase. Now I've got to go externally. I'm looking outside of my holding company. I'm looking outside of myself, and I'm looking to identify with other assets, whether they are business assets, real estate assets, equipment, or all the things that I may personally hold and have control of. And I'm looking to acquire them, to purchase them, to make an exchange, to bring them inside of my ecosystem the same way I did with the ones that I personally hold and control. So hopefully you're tracking along with me. Now, yesterday at the back end of my show, when we talked about part one of this holding companies and net worth conversation, I mentioned to you that in order for this strategy or this process to be successful, there are questions you need to ask yourself. I call this the asset. We could consider this accumulation and acquisition test. This is the asset acquisition and accumulation test. You need to conduct a test, meaning that when you identify with something that you think is an asset, that you think could either be accumulated internally or acquired externally, you need to run that thing, that idea, that business, that physical, virtual, digital, intellectual, quote unquote, asset through. You need to run it through the asset test. So what are one of the first questions I'm going to ask myself to vet and to assess that particular or potential asset? First question I'm gonna ask: does it have monetary value? Does it have monetary value? What is the dollar amount that I can associate with? For example, if I have a piece of land that I personally own, it's in my personal name, and I own it, and I want it to be owned by my holding company or LLC under my holding company, the first thing I want to do is figure out, what is this land worth? Does it have any value? Does it have monetary value? Now, you might have to get an appraisal for that if it's a piece of land. Maybe it's a vehicle that you already have the title for that you might feel like is an asset. Maybe it's a copyright or trademark, whatever it is. Maybe it's a retirement account. And by the way, you're listening to me as an entrepreneur. I want you to understand almost everything that I'm saying to you, I have either directly or indirectly had some type of experience when it comes to this with either myself or with a client that I may have worked with. So I understand what I'm saying, okay? So it could be a retirement account that you personally hold. Well, maybe you want to consider setting up a self-directed IRA under your holding company. It may be in its own LLC, but it's a certain dollar amount that you have in your retirement account that you might want to consider talking to a custodian and working out that process. So I want to ask the asset accumulation or asset acquisition test. Does it have monetary value? So that's the first question I'm going to ask, because I don't want to just dump stuff inside of my holding company that ain't got no value. I don't want to just fill my holding company up with liabilities. You get what I'm saying? I mean, why? It's almost like saying, okay, well, I got a car. I personally own my car. My car has no monetary value because I'm upside down in it. The car's worth 20 grand. I owe 30 grand, but I just want to quote unquote transfer this so-called asset to my holding company. Ain't no value in it. Okay, maybe there's some value if you're gonna, have some type of transportation service, or you running it through Turo or something like that. Maybe. Maybe it's your personal residence that you own and it's got some equity in it. I don't know. You have to vet that. And of course, what I'm saying to you are things that I have personally conducted myself, or I have worked with other people to conduct. But this does not go without explaining to you that these things still need to be worked on with public accountants, your CPA, a business attorney, or a real estate attorney, or people who know the laws and the financial or tax ramifications behind these things. You need to work with people. Just like your retirement account, you're going to have to work with a custodian. So there are professionals. There are people who are licensed and certified in some of these asset transfers to work with you. So I'm just making general statements, but I'm showing you that this is a test that you have to take and ask yourself, because lawyers and CPAs or custodians and other people, they're going to help you. They're going to work through some of these things with you if it requires them to be involved, but they ain't running your business. All right? It ain't their legacy. I'm a business consultant. I might help you. I might give you some pointers and some direction, but I ain't running your business for you. So always keep in mind, these are things that you got to do. But this is a question you got to ask. Does it have monetary value? Another question that you want to ask is, can I monetize it? Can I monetize it? So let me give you an example. When I set my holding company up and I was looking for assets to accumulate, of course, I want assets to acquire, but I started by looking at assets that I held, things that I had in my possession and control that I could make a decision on today. At the time I started it, I didn't have a business to acquire. I didn't have the means to acquire a business. I didn't have a piece of real estate to acquire at the time. But guess what? I did have certain assets that I could identify as assets that I could look at. One of the assets that I had was my experience in starting entities and structuring them. I had experience with real estate investing and working with clients and helping them put deals together and managing properties. My wife and I did that. So we already had a lot of experience in different things. So I had to look at those intellectual assets that I had, and I had to run them through this test. Do they have monetary value? Well, I really couldn't put a monetary value on my ability to consult, my ability to coach, my ability to educate people, because I didn't have any programs or any products or anything in stone that I could say this is worth 10 grand or this is worth 100 grand. However, the next question was, here, can I monetize it? Oh, yes. I could take my intellectual property, the information that I have, and I could package it in the form of consulting services. I could package it in the form of coaching programs. I could package it in the form of an educational program, and I can actually monetize that. So guess what? That was something that I wanted to put inside of my holding company. So that's another question. Another important question you want to ask is, if I reposition internally an asset, or if I acquire an asset and reposition it under my holding company, or just transfer the ownership of an asset to my holding company, the next question I want to ask is, will it elevate my EV? Will it elevate my enterprise value? Will it elevate my enterprise value? This is how you're going to ultimately increase your net worth, because you are accumulating assets. You are at some point acquiring assets. Remember, the primary purpose of a holding company, I don't know if we talk about this enough, but I'm going to start talking about it a lot more because I'm moving into this direction myself. The primary purpose of a holding company is not to just set up an LLC to tell everybody you got a holding company. The primary purpose of a holding company is not for you to run certain services like consulting or coaching and education through your holding company. The primary purpose of a holding company is to hold assets. That's the primary purpose of a holding company. And how are you going to hold assets under your holding company? Here's how you're going to hold them. You're going to hold them by accumulating them internally, by acquiring them externally. And the only way you're going to accumulate or acquire assets is you are able to identify with things that have monetary value, that can be monetized, and that elevate your enterprise value. What I'm sharing with you today, especially if you're a small business owner, you're a dolopreneur, you are a W-2 employee looking to transition into entrepreneurship, or maybe you are like me, you're a preacher, a pastor, a minister, you're looking to transition into the marketplace. Well, guess what? What I'm saying to you is $1 million worth of game. I'm telling you right now, this is $1 million worth of game if you can conceptualize what I'm saying. Now, will you thoroughly understand it all in one show? I don't think so. All right, we're already 20 minutes into the show. I don't know if you're going to understand thoroughly everything that I'm saying, but it should be enough that I'm saying to you that opens your mind to the endless possibilities of how you can increase your net worth using entity structures, concepts like the holding company. And it starts with you standing at the top, setting your holding company up, being clear on how divisions and subsidiaries and other assets work within your enterprise, and then starting the process of asset accumulation, getting to asset acquisitions through internal and external strategies that you implement. And you implement those strategies by making sure you conduct your asset accumulation or asset acquisition tests. Can I make money off this thing? Does this thing have monetary value, and will it ultimately elevate my enterprise value? Again, everything that I'm sharing with you, I have courses on because I'm an educator at heart, but I also have experience and practice in. I like to practice what I preach. I like to preach what I practice. And so as a practitioner, I know how beneficial these strategies are when you implement them and execute them the right way. And sometimes executing them the right way won't produce results immediately, but it will produce results eventually. And it really just depends on what assets that you have. A lot of times when I walk people through the asset accumulation or the asset acquisition tests, a lot of times they realize that they have controlled or they have in their possession things that they didn't see as assets to their business. Okay? And again, the ultimate goal should be for you to not own anything, but for you to control everything through this enterprise that you've put together. That's the game. The game is not to own it. The game is to own the thing that owns it and control the thing that owns it while you stand at the top. That's the freedom that we all want, okay? And a lot of times we don't take that approach as entrepreneurs because we're not taught to take that approach. We're taught to come up with an idea for a business, to create a product, to put together a service, to package it in a business, and to go out in the world and just bang and knock and fight and claw and scratch until we get somebody to buy the product or to buy the service. I'm not saying you don't have to still do that, but what I am saying is while you're doing that, you also should be doing that in light of a bigger, better picture that you have for what you want your life and your business and even your legacy to be. So if you have any questions, of course, you can drop your questions in the comments. We'll be more than happy to answer those questions. If we're not able to answer the questions during the live, whether it's because you can't watch and type the question at the same time or because we're no longer live, you're just watching the replay, You are always free, my friend, to reach out to me and to my team at any time, okay? You can call any of these two numbers. You can call these numbers. You can text the word strategy. The reason why I like to use certain words for you to text is because when you text certain words, my team already knows where that text is coming from. You may have watched the show. Sometimes when we're on a Zoom or when we're in a live event or when I'm having some type of meetup, there are words that we may give. So this word strategy, when you text it, or if you don't call, it lets my team know that you've watched one of our segments online from our social media pages, and we know that you want some information or you just need some type of direction and assistance, and we're always available for you. Of course, we have a free business assessment workbook. This is a free resource that we offer as much as we can, because for most people who have never paid a consultant to help them with their business, they don't know what to expect when they pay or if they pay a consultant, a business consultant, to help them. I like to really lean people more towards the consulting thing rather than the coaching thing, because, you know, everybody's a coach today. We got all kind of coaches. But a lot of times, somebody who says they're a coach, whether they're a business coach or executive coach or CEO coach or corporate coach, a lot of times that may not mean that they are coaching you on the nuts and bolts of your business entity, your structure, your systems, your processes, on the engineering your business part. And I think that's what we do well. That's what we've done. And that's what we work on every day, getting better at, because that's what I really love to do. I am a motivator. I'm a preacher. I can inspire you and encourage you and enlighten you and get you excited and pumped up, but that ain't gonna make your business no money. You know, that ain't necessarily gonna give you the tools and the skills that you need to actually build a successful business. And again, this is something that we work on every day, and we would love to work with you. So again, you can take advantage of this free business assessment workbook. In the description of this video, there will be a link to our free business workbook. You can download it, print it out. It'll take you about 30 minutes or so to go through it. It's a 17-page digital workbook. This workbook is a 5-step process that we use to consult clients. So it gives you a great idea of what you can expect when you're sitting down with a business consultant, at least with us, and we help you prepare yourself better for what you should be doing if you want to start a business or restructure a business that you already started. We also have a couple walkthrough video tutorials for each of the 5 steps with the workbook. And when you get through it, if you have questions, things that you circle and highlight, you can always text the word strategy and receive a free strategy call based on the questions that you might have. Or you can skip the workbook, skip the text, and just call us. We're here. Either way, we want to support you. We want to help you get your business to the next level or your ministry to the next level. I've worked with, oh my God, tons and tons of preachers, pastors, ministers who have parachurch ministries, nonprofit CEOs, small business owners, solopreneurs, people who are self-employed, network marketers. I mean, I've worked with all of the above on both sides of the spectrum, and I would love to have an opportunity to work with you. So we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for watching today's show. I would love to also get some feedback. Let me know, what was your biggest takeaway from today's show? It looks like scribble scrabble now, but I would love to know, what was your biggest takeaway from today's show concerning holding companies and net worth? Was it the net worth piece? Was it the holding company piece, division, subsidiary, assets? Was it the accumulation and acquisition? Maybe this is something new that you learned today, and it's opened your eyes to the endless possibilities of what you can do with your entity and how you can really increase your net worth in a creative and very strategic way. Either way, it's Friday. We love y'all. We appreciate you. We'll be back here Monday, same place, same time, 12 o'clock noon Eastern on the Ramon Preston Show. Have an amazing weekend.